us today. It is a Good Friday. And for those of you who are out there and you celebrate, we're just celebrating life today. And I want to dedicate this episode to those people who are serving, obviously, all of the medical workers that are out there putting their lives on the line every day. And the people who probably don't get the shout outs. And those are the people at our grocery stores and the people who are still servicing us. We're so fortunate to have those folks willing to serve us during this time. So let's start the show out, shall we? With we've got an amazing winemaker coming on, Caruth Cellars, and I thought I would open up a bottle of wine. I think I gave you folks permission to drink. I don't know what your time zone is, but we're 1 o'clock here, Pacific Standard Time. We're going to have to make a little exception because I know it's 5 o'clock somewhere. And so I'm going to go ahead and open this, and I'll share a little bit about Caruth Cellars. So they're known as an urban winery. They're our neighbor here in Solana Beach. And the owner, Adam Caruth, he started this urban winery. He says he buys grapes from the country, and he brings those grapes and makes wine in the city. So he's got something really special going on. He also has a really interesting thing that he does in his winery. He has a thing called Pay It Forward. And it's a bottle that when you buy that bottle, a certain portion of the proceeds goes to the community for various charities in need. So that's a little bit of background about him. But he buys some of the best grapes from all over. And Napa Valley, Sonoma County, and he brings those into his winery and they make wine right there and they barrel it, so it's pretty special. So we have him, and then of course we're going to have Lyman Whitaker, internationally known sculptor, who will be coming on the show right after. So let me just pour myself a glass of wine. I'm drinking Starmont, which is a really nice vintage, and I want to get my wine going first. And hopefully you guys are drinking virtually with me. I hope so. I hope we're having a virtual wine tasting. And let's see if we can get Caruth up here on the stream. Let's see what we've got here. All right. Is that you, Steve? Can you hear me okay? I can't hear you yet. Let me just see if I may have muted him on accident. We've got a lot of rain coming down here. For you who are in San Diego or Southern California, boy, do we have the deluge coming down here. Can you hear me okay, Steve? I don't know if Steve can hear me. I'm going to have a little sip of this first while he's getting set up over there. It's a good one, folks. Some pretty amazing ones to partake of virtually, if nothing else. Okay, let's see if we can get Steve live. Steve, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Steve? No? Okay, let me just see. You know, this is one of those things about technology. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I don't know if the rain is doing us any favors here. Well, shoot. I can't hear you, Steve. We may have to jump to the Whitakers and then see if maybe Steve can log in and log back out and see if that works, because sometimes, you know, with this technology, we never know what we're going to get. But in the meantime, I think we're just going to have to move on to the next portion of our show. I'll have to nurse this wine a little bit, and we'll have to bring Lyman Whitaker in. So Lyman, just for you, some of you know know Lyman's work. He is the incredible wind sculptor that we have in front of our gallery. He's also in many galleries across the country, and he's done some major public installations for Children's Hospital, for major public spaces. He's been doing this for over 50 years, and he's known as probably the foremost sculptor in the kinetic sculptural style. So he's going to come on the show, and let me see if I can get him, and we'll try to catch him in his studio here. Okay, we've got Lyman. Lyman, we had to bring you on the show a little earlier because I couldn't get Steve to stream in, and I already opened up a little bottle of wine for our virtual wine tasting, but hopefully you can hear me, Lyman. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You caught me by surprise. That's okay. I
have a tendency to do that. Well, I know we were going to bring you in a little bit later, and now it seems like I've got Steve coming back in. Steve, can you hear me? I don't know if we've got some technical difficulties, but Lyman's here. Lyman, how are you doing being confined to your home? I know you're not in your studio, right? You're working in your home.
Yeah, I have a small studio here.
Okay.
And being confined to my home, I think, is some kind of dream come true. So I've been really enjoying this period of time. I've always felt the world was going way, way too fast, and I've enjoyed having everything slow down. I like the less pollution, less noise, and love the clear skies. And the skies are also quieter. Lately, since I've had kind of a negative streak, I've been trying to work on looking for the silver linings in stormy situations. And I find this one full of silver linings, with all due respect.
You can hardly hear you.
To the amount of suffering that goes on.
Linda texted me saying she can hardly hear you.
I hear you, Stacy, in the background. Lyman, can you just speak up a little bit more? I mean, I can hear you a little bit, but just a tiny bit.
Okay, is that
all right? Now you were cooking.
Okay, well, we're doing this by the seat of our pants, I guess.
This is what live streaming is all about. You never know what you're going to get. So we're all in on the ride here with you. So
yeah, this is real reality TV.
This is true. So Lyman, you were sharing what it's been like, because I know you have a pretty major studio that you do most of your work at, and both you and your wife are now confined to your home. And how's that working for you as far as creativity?
Well, it's been really fun. It's given me a chance to just do some little fun projects. Back in the, I guess early 70s, I made these little steam engines. I started with the idea of something that could be run on one candle power. And
it's great.
Has a little candle down here, and it's actually a steam turbine engine. Anyway, so I started another one just kind of for reminiscence. I really love to build them, and so that's one thing I've been doing, plus just catching up with other stuff.
You are creative, boy. Nothing stops you.
Yeah, I do a lot of different things. The wind sculptures, of course, are my main thing and my first love. But I find if I do other kinds of artwork, it all helps. All helps the creative process.
So, do you have any of the wind sculptures being worked on now? Is there anything you can show the folks as far as a little bit of your process?
I got a few here. There's one in the background. Can you see that one?
Yeah, I see it. That's gorgeous.
And this is a piece I've been rescuing. And I guess we could go out in the yard. Do you want to go out in the yard and take a look?
Love to. I'm going to minimize my screen, folks, so you guys can see Lyman's yard a little bit better there. Oh, look at that. Those are gorgeous. So, one of the things that people love about your work is, the way that it makes you feel. It's so soothing, that movement. It's mesmerizing.
Yeah, I think I've been really, really fortunate. sometimes I learn about my work through other people, through their reaction to it, which is what I had in mind. And usually I don't have anything in mind. I just go to work and kind of let the process guide me.
So when you first started with this, Lyman, how can you share with the folks out there? There's a lot of collectors that own these, but how did this whole thing start where you started exploring kinetic sculpture and, developing this? Now you've been doing it for almost, 50 years?
Boy, it seems like just yesterday. I started out with classical training. I used to do realistic busts, and I went to the Museum of Modern Art, and I was just taken by by those shapes and forms. So I think that set me on the general path. In college, I made a piece that was a little bit like wind sculpture, so I drove it with a fan.
Right.
And years later, I was just playing in my shop. You get tired of trying to be successful sometimes. You just drop back into something that's fun. And I came up with a little piece made out of hanger wire, bent around a shaft, and made just put a few little elements on it. I put it outside for a year, and it behaved quite well. And then I had a little art show, and somebody bought it. And when somebody buys something, I try and at least replace it with something similar. It's sort of a business plan of sorts. So that's how I got started.
And who knew that it would bless so many people now? People from all over, even with our gallery, we'll have people come in and say, I've seen these, and they've collected one themselves. It's pretty amazing the impact that these have had on the world, really. When you go to create something like this, how do you conceptualize it? Is it a math problem, or how do you actually come up with the design so it's going to catch that wind in just the right way?
Well, I start with two things that have treated me really well. You have to respect the wind, and then a lot of my forms come from plants, a lot of the shapes. And so I feel indebted to those two forces. And so I kind of feel like I have partners, and we work together. And then, of course, the fourth partner is the tools. They determine a lot what you can do. And they somewhat guide you, because metal, you can force it into a lot of shapes, but I like to take the shapes that get naturally revealed by the tools. With some guidance.
That's very Native American of you, Lyman. The idea that you're working in unison with nature and other tools, and everything's playing a integral part to create this beauty that comes out. I love that. It's really a great idea, and I believe in it personally. So any one of your sculptures, do you have any favorite child there? One that you created that is just the one that you feel the most proud about?
I have several I like real well, but it tends to change with time, and maybe even a little bit with my moods. Some of them are turned slowly and reveal their shape and fashion. I find that I like those really well. And they depend on which one I'm looking at, which is my favorite.
That makes sense. So in your space there, do you have a garden area? Did you want to show us? Because I'd love the folks to see how these end up in a placement of, a few pieces together if they haven't seen our sculpture garden.
Yeah, and that's also something I've been doing with this little extra time with some gardening, which has been a great pleasure.
Wow, look at those, folks.
Can you see the dog?
What a beautiful place to be sequestered.
Oh, I walked out of the picture. Sorry, I got looking at the mountain.
Beautiful, Lyman. So when you place these, do you have an idea of how you want to place the sculptures next to each other?
Well, I'm really fortunate because random works really well. However, with a little thought, you can get ones that relate a little better to each other. And of course, it is dependent on, the context of the place
Right.
they're in. Some places call for more vertical arrangement. I like to do several together because I consider them one piece. If you have 4 or 5, I consider a single composition.
Beautiful. And the ones you have that you're showing, those are all the copper pieces, correct?
Yeah, they're copper. I have the stainless, but they're not easy to get to today. The stainless are nice because the light kind of flows off the surface, where the copper you get more involved in the shape. So
Right.
it may be similar, they're really totally different pieces.
We have all copper in front of our gallery, and in my home, I have a couple copper pieces by my pool. But I really am fascinated with the stainless because it brings a completely different element into the feel of the sculpture. It's more contemporary. It's a little bit more flashy. It feels smoother. I love the fact that you're doing both because they do have such a different feeling.
Oh, I just found one that's close. It's just, I think we can get it. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. This fairly recent piece. It's called Gemini because you have the 2 pieces that kind of dance in between each other. It has a little astrological theme.
I love it. I love how the light dances off of the stainless. It's a little bit more organic with the copper. They're both amazing, but I really am liking that.
And with a little bit more wind, this element also, also turns. So it gives another dynamic to the piece.
Beautiful.
Too, because it has they look like they're almost going to hit each other, but usually they don't. Unless they're, of course, out of shape.
Well, these are just gorgeous. Do you have plans on any new designs coming up?
Yeah, I'm always working on new designs. I have a few that I wish I had a picture of them. I have a few that I just finished, but I'm continually doing new work. That of course is the joy, and it ends up being the job I do best.
Well, you do it very well. I think the feedback, I'm getting a lot of people putting in the feed the things that they love so much. And I think one of the things that we've heard from people who own these, especially people who are in urban settings where maybe they don't have a lot of room like you do with this gorgeous landscape, this brings an element of nature and movement into their environment. This outdoor sculpture where they can sit outside or look outside their window and really feel like they're being almost taken to a completely different space in the middle of the city. So I think that is such an important thing, just bringing nature into the environment. And you have really allowed people to be able to do that.
Yeah, I really love the way they can fit into a garden context. Since they somewhat are inspired by plants, they tend to be at home, among plants. Also, I like to think of them as kind of a transition between the plant world and the more mechanical world, because they're both plant forms and mechanical in nature.
It's true. And they're also being powered by the wind. So you have all these elements. You have the metal, and you have the element of the wind, and you're, pulling from nature. And then, of course, you are the composer of all that, pulling all those elements together and having them work in unison. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and I like to think of those as personalities, that you're gathering these personalities into a group, where you all participate in it.
It's beautiful. And I think for the viewers, I really like to point out that, someone like Lyman, there's a lot of thought that goes into art, and, you're hearing this right from the artist himself, these ideas that he's pulling together to create these sculptural pieces. It's really profound. So Lyman, we got to hear a little bit about your confinement. What are your thoughts on this time period that we're living in?
Oh, well, I think we're at a pivotal moment. I don't think we're ever going back to where we were, and I don't think we should either. I wasn't all that satisfied with going back with the normal that we were all living. I think it's a really exciting time. You can get caught in the negative drama of it, but it's just so fascinating seeing the world change, so quickly and so dramatically. Yeah. Driven by the smallest creature on earth. I mean, there's nothing smaller than a virus. It's kind of an interesting contrast. But Dave,
I know yesterday you had mentioned to me about your thought process of finding the silver lining, and I thought that was really beautiful.
Yeah. Well, my son, he said, "Dad, you're too negative," and so I started really working. And so I started really looking for the silver lining in situations, and it's always there. And it's just such a much nicer place to place yourself. Even though the other stuff is still going on, mentally you can spend some time in the silver lining. And because there's a lot of sadness and trauma and pain in the world, doesn't mean that you need to add to it by being there with it.
So true. So true. I think that's a good word for all of us to take a page out of your book on that one. It's so true.
My wife brought out this little piece, and since it's somewhat heavy, can you see it?
Mm-hmm. We can see it.
Yeah, this normally looks like a regular stack of rocks, which isn't that interesting, but it has some dynamics to it.
Yes.
Yeah, and this inspired the last piece I did too, because the last piece I did was, it's kind of hard to describe. It's like a mobile that's upside down. It goes from the bottom up. So I balance the first piece, and I take that whole piece and put it on another piece, and then I balance that whole thing, and then put that on another piece and balance that. So it's a real interesting wind sculpture with all these, elements.
Amazing. So Lyman, I was really impressed that you and your beautiful wife, Stacy, came up with this modern technology of the Lyman Whitaker app. And I'm still playing around with it. It's so much fun. How did that come about?
Michael, he was
and your brother.
Yeah, and my brother. Yeah, he was the guy that started working for us when he was 16. Couldn't use tools. You can't use them until you're 18. And he's just kind of grown up with us, and he's a real computer person.
That's fabulous. So I love the way, folks, if you get a chance, go to your app store, Apple, whoever you get your apps from, and download the Lyman Whitaker app, and you'll see all his sculptures there. But the coolest part is you can take a picture of where you'd want to place one, like your backyard or wherever, your front yard, whatever you're thinking. You snap a photo, and then you choose the sculptures that you'd like to see in that space, and voila, it just appears. They're there and they're spinning around, and you can kind of move them up and down and place them. It is really fun. It's a really fun thing to do. And, then you can put it on your wish list for the future.
Yeah, people tend to really enjoy these. They have an appeal to a broad range of people, from those that have sophisticated taste to those who just enjoy looking at interesting objects.
Well, and I think then, and also besides, the philosophy and the feeling of them, they're very durable. I know because of the actual materials that you're using, the copper and the stainless steel. I mean, they're going to be around for, forever, pretty much, unless you purposely try to destroy them, which I think is really nice.
Occasionally, I get some back from the mid '90s. And they generally need a new bearing or something, but they have parts that are replaceable, but they go for a long, long time, and they're low maintenance, and unlike a tree, you don't have to water them.
That's a good point.
They will behave, and they take strong winds. We've had some anecdotal stories. One made it through Katrina. Another guy called me and said he needed to know for insurance what the one was worth because he lost it to his wind. And for the wind, I said, "God, I'm sorry. Generally that doesn't happen." He said, "Oh, don't feel bad. I lost my roof also."
Okay, that makes sense. That's wonderful. Well, Lyman, I just want to thank you so much for sharing the beauty of your art with the folks today. Is there any parting words of wisdom that you'd like to give our viewers, on this Good Friday?
Yes, enjoy the peace and quiet. It's really beautiful. Look at the sky. There are fewer contrails. Get into the thing this period of time has to offer. Oh, less pollution. So I wish you all the best, and thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lyman. What an amazing artist, Lyman Whitaker. I mean, I highly recommend, if you haven't had a chance to go online and see his work, do that. And when we're back open, you can come visit our wind sculpture garden. It's I eat my lunch outside every day, and I just take it all in. So thank you again, Lyman. And I'm going to remove him, and we're going to see if we can get our wine tasting back on here. All right. So let me see if I can get this to work. This is Steve from Caruth Cellars. Steve, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Hey, we've made contact. The eagle has landed. I'm doing great. How about you?
Excellent. Good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Sometimes this program works, sometimes it doesn't, but you're here now.
Yeah, that's all right. No problem.
So how are you folks doing with being confined?
We're doing our best, actually. Luckily, we normally, from a wine production perspective, work inside of a cellar. So we can still go in and do whatever's necessary to keep the wine going. Our tasting rooms aren't open any longer. I mean, they are open, but they're not open for actual tasting. You can just come in and purchase the wines.
Okay.
But in general, it just helps us to transfer into a different, area of the business to be able to sell more things online.
That's great.
Yeah.
So why don't you just share, I'm going to give you the stage, just share with the folks here. Not everybody is familiar with your tasting room or with what you do. I've been over a few times. It's such an incredible space. It's just really cool. I love what you guys have done over there. But go ahead and share with the folks, give a little background of what it is that you are bringing to the community here.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. I mean, as you touched on, Adam Caruth started the company about 10 years ago. We're in the art district there on Cedros is our main location. We started there down the street, but we've still been on that street about 10 years. The tasting room, we've produced most of the wine that has been produced there for the last 9 years. Last year, we have a new location starting. And as soon as we finished with this whole pandemic aspect, we'll be able to come back in and enjoy that actual tasting and the community and enjoying the wine at that particular spot. That was our first one. We have 2 other locations. There's one in Carlsbad in the Village, right next to Baba Coffee off of State Street. And then there's one downtown, right across from Urban Wood and Juniper and Ivy, 2 great restaurants on Kettner Street. And then soon we're to be expanding into Oceanside. So we have a little place across from the airport there, and hopefully we'll get that up and running. And that's where we're doing all the production currently. So a background to the winery itself is really, you know, as you said, Adam tries to purchase the highest quality grapes we can get from the best AVAs or viticultural areas, mostly of California. We do get some from Oregon as well, but from Napa, from Sonoma, from Russian River to Alexander Valley, Chalk Hill, which is the one I have here, small AVA, but we essentially just bring in the best grapes and bring them all the way down. Used to be to Solana Beach, now to Oceanside, and produce everything locally. Much like beer, you can make the wine anywhere. It's just being able to get those grapes down. And it actually works kind of as a benefit because there's a process called a cold soak where the grapes actually sit for a little while. Well, they sit inside of a truck, cold truck, and the high 30s, low 40s, and it just helps to strengthen and intensify the grapes as it is. So it kind of works as a natural cold soak. And then we make it locally. Just so in the past, we've always had people come in and have a foot stomp every year and be able to really enjoy it just like you're in Napa. We're just missing the vineyards. So
how fun is that? Well, I definitely want to participate in that. So you get the grapes, and then do you barrel them for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, so it all depends on the varietal that you're making. But in general, most say red wines, because we're the largest producer of red wines. Most Bordeaux wines will sit in the barrel for about 2 years, 18 months to 2 years, plus or minus.
Okay.
That's just kind of a standard in the industry. And then it depends on the type of grape. Some like a Pinot or a Grenache. Sometimes those only sit there about a year or so. And that touches on the artistic side of the winemaking. How much oak do you want the wine to have? How tannic do you want the wine to be? Do you want it to be very, very dry in your mouth, or do you want it to be a more fruit-forward wine? So in general, it's about 1.5 to 2 years is the.
Okay.
And we use 100% French oak. Well, I shouldn't say that. We use about 95% French oak. We use a little bit of brand new American lately as well, mixed into some of the particular varietals. But in general, it's mostly 100% French oak. Yeah.
Okay, so now what did you bring us that you're going to give us a little class on what to look for?
Yeah, so that's one of the things about wine, right? It's got a very crazy mystique that everybody thinks it's so detailed and so hard to understand, but really it's quite simple. There's really a couple of things that I would look for. One is the color of the wine. Does it look light? Does it look dark? That kind of gives you a sense right off the bat. Is it going to be a heavier wine or is it going to be a lighter wine? Your Pinots and Sangioveses and Grenaches are all going to be a little lighter. Today I brought you a Cab Franc. This is an older grape. It's very rare that you find it on its own, so it's a single varietal. These are from Chalk Hill, a little AVA just inside Russian River, northeast side. A lot of volcanic soil. I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of somewhat, you can see through it. It's not super, super dark. It's not super, super light. It's kind of like a happy medium. And this wine is kind of your in-between wine. It's not a Pinot, which has a thin-skinned grape, and it's not a Petit Syrah that's dark and that hearty, but it's easy drinking. It's very bright. And then you smell it. What do you get? Are you getting fruit? Are you getting bright fruit? Are you getting oak? Are you getting more like a slate or clay aspects? And then essentially you just taste it. What type of things do you get from that? Is it something that's really, really tannic or dry in your mouth, another aspect of the wines? Or is it something that's bright and lively and just sits on the front of your tongue? And that's kind of it. Those are, like I'd say, the 3 main categories: your color, your smell, and your taste. And ultimately, it comes down to what you like. Wine is like anything; it's a very personal thing. Whatever you enjoy is really the most important thing.
I love it. It's so great. Now, all of you folks that are watching, this is a good time to raise your glass here. And with Adam, have a little skosh, a little taste of your wine.
Cheers.
See how that tastes in your mouth. And now I will tell you that you definitely need to get a bottle of wine from Caruth, because obviously the virtual, we haven't gotten that far in technology where you can actually taste the wine yet. I'm sure it's coming. Sure, probably 20 years from now, we'll be looking back and all kinds of things will be happening. But where can folks pick up your wine now?
So all of our locations, the one in Carlsbad, Solana Beach, and downtown Little Italy, are open from 4 to 7 every day except Sunday. It's 2 to 6. But you can go there. You can stand 6 feet from somebody, and they'll get you something. You can also go to our website, caruthcellars.com. We have a plethora of different offerings. One of the things I think that makes our winery so unique and wonderful is the fact that, you go to Silver Oak and all you get is a Cabernet. You come to Caruth Cellars and you can have 15 to 20 different varietals, from an individual Cab Franc to an individual Petit Verdot to Alexander Valley Cabs and, Sauvignons. So all those different varietals gives you so much aspects to try different things.
That's so wonderful. So can folks also get home delivery?
They can. Yeah, we're offering right now, if I'm not mistaken, if you purchase 6 bottles or more, it's free delivery within specific boundaries. I want to say it's west of the 15 or close to the 15. You could probably bend our arms and we'll still ship it to you. So no problem, but it's definitely around San Diego County. And either way, we can ship it definitely throughout California and most of the West states. We're working on the process to being able to get all 50 states. It just takes a little time.
Oh, that's great. Well, we really appreciate you making that available. I don't know about you folks, but I will have to admit my wine consumption has gone up because, you got to have something to look forward to at night. It's kind of like the big highlight of the evening. So thank you so much, Adam. We're going to be having our big shindig here like you are once the street opens back up, and we're going to have a big art show. I definitely am going to have you be a part of that. Adam has been so amazing to provide wine for our galleries for several of our events. When we had Chad Smith here from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, he was going nuts over your wine. So that was a kudos to you. That actually put us in good standing with him. So thanks again. We're really happy that you joined us today, and be blessed, be well, and we'll see you again, neighbor. Appreciate it.
Right on. Appreciate that. You guys have us. Take care.
Thank you.
Happy Easter.
You
Cheers.
too. Well, folks, there we were again. Another Art of the City TV. So glad you were able to join us. I hope you're enjoying your wine. Next week, we've got a really great lineup. So let me read off who we have. We're going to have glass artist Tom Merrows on Monday, and he'll be showing us his sculptural glass design live from his home. He'll be actually giving us a demonstration on how he brings those together. We also have another cooking demo. We've got a chef, Gunnard, who's going to be on our show teaching us, I'm not sure, some special recipe I'm sure is coming up. Wednesday, we're going to head to Westworld and a little pulp fiction with artist Gabe Leonard. He'll be on our show. And along with Gabe, we have a master mixologist. This gentleman is a bartender, but he also has created recipes. He's been doing this for many, many years. His name is, it's Drinks by Dutch. So you can go online and you can Google him if you'd like to see him in advance. And then Friday, we're going to dedicate Friday to the kids. So if you have children that you would like to, be involved to watch this episode, it's going to be kicked off with one of my favorite artists, Isabella of Bella Hearts. She's going to be doing a little class for kids on how to paint the hearts. And then we're going to have some guest appearances from Michael Floor and his children, who are also artists. And we'll open the show with Sandy Cottrell. Sandy has been one of the leaders here in the art movement in San Diego. She is the producer of Art Walk San Diego, and she's going to share with us a foundation that she is behind called Art Reach for Children, bringing art back into the school and teaching kids how to create once again. So don't miss next week. Art of the City TV, please share it with your friends. We want to bring a little light and love into everybody's homes through the arts, music, culture. Again, if you have somebody you'd like to be on our show, please email me. We'd love to have them. Be blessed this Good Friday. Whatever your beliefs are, we have one common belief, I think, as artists and creatives and as human beings on this planet, that we want to bring light and love into each other's lives. And what a better time than now to do that. So have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday, 1 o'clock, Art of the City TV. We'll see you then.